Thank you all. I hope you all are caffeinated, energized for the conference. Yeah, I know. This is our first talk in the JavaScript track. Uh, I hope I won't make it boring. Okay. So my talk is about building inclusive React applications, where I talk about the techniques and the best practices for front-end engineers in order to build, inclusive web applications. So, uh, a little about me. So, I'm a senior staff software engineer at Albertsons companies. I have been working on mobile applications, web applications from close to a decade. So, I started my career back in 2017, but I started working while I was doing my undergrad. So, uh, I hope you all know what is accessibility, right? Anyone? Okay. I hope it doesn't sound like that. So, what is significance of the accessibility? Specifically for web accessibility. So, when we build applications, we make sure that we build for everyone and which is usable by everybody, not just for the uh, uh, normal users. We make sure that our web applications is accessible to even for people with disabilities or with motor impairments, visual impairments, you know, uh, uh, people who cannot speak, people who cannot hear. Okay, it's more about building applications to wider audience, right? So, how many of you are working on the customer-facing application? That's great. So, do you know how many percentage of users are of your users are disabled? Okay, I know. It's not just about building applications for disabled people. It's about the better user experience, right? Let's take an example. Let's say you build an application, let's say video application, where you're in a noisy environment and you're listening to a video. Let's take YouTube, right? It's good to have transcription, captions when you're playing a video, right? So even in the noisy area, you could read through the captions and you could understand what's going on. Okay, consider the same scenario for people who cannot hear, right? All right. So it's not just for building application just for the disabled people. It's for better user experience and making it more accessible. Okay. So this is pretty much about the web accessibility. So so what comes after this? Uh, the accessibility standards. How many of you are aware of Americans with Disability Act? How many of you know web accessibility guidelines? Web content accessibility guidelines? That's great. Okay. So I'll tell you what is web content accessibility guidelines. These are a set of guidelines designed by one of the non-profit organization called W3C, World Wide Web Consortium. It's a non-profit organization where all the developer advocates or the accessibility advocates come in. They design these rules and guidelines and set of principles one should follow to make web application accessible to everyone. Okay, so there are different standards when it comes to web content accessibility guidelines. Level A, which is first standard, and level AA, which is a second level of standard, and level triple A, which is a tall level, which is beyond what we call the accessibility. Okay, but, if you take ADA, Americans with the Disability Act, you just have to meet level AA so that you comply with American Disability Act. it's not just about the compliance; it's about the usability, right? So you build web applications, to make sure that you make it accessible to everyone. Okay, that's a first and foremost rule. It's not just complying with the guidelines, comply with the act and all. Okay, it's more about a developer has to think in terms of user experience, providing a better user experience to everybody. Okay, so that's where my passion starts. I want to build applications that should be usable to everyone, providing a great user experience, great revenue, and great usability, more users, right? Let's assume you build a complex website where users are having hard time to find. Let's say you build a retail website where you sell groceries, right? So let's say you build a complex UI and where users are having a hard time to find their uh, shopping list or find their products to shop, right? So that's not the case. It's not uh, uh, um, for normal users. Uh, when you build applications accessible in mind, uh, you build simple accessible UI just for everyone. So this is one other act, 508, Section 508, Rehabilitation Act, which applicable for the government agencies, federal agencies. Uh, so these are pretty much of the compliance. So let's say you have a retail website. Okay, any of the retail website you have. Okay, you have a retail website, and let's say if the website is not accessible to any of the users, they might end up in lawsuits. Okay, there is one of the famous retail chain that got they imposed a lawsuit. They had to pay $6 million just for not complying with the ADA. Okay, assume so the penalty starts with 75,000 and it goes and multiplies if you cannot comply with it. Okay, so let's talk about some common accessibility barriers. As you can see, I hope you all know the Breaking Bad character Salamanca, right? So when you build inaccessible website, this is how it looks. Okay, you cannot, you say there's a wheelchair access, but you cannot make use of wheelchair, right? What's the point in having that? So as per the Web AM, which is a non-profit organization again, uh, Web AIM is nothing but web accessibility in mind. Okay, they have one tool called Wave, which is an accessibility testing tool. They conducted a research on top 1 million websites, popular websites, and these are the most common accessibilities they found. Okay, so with low contrast, missing alt text, missing labels, empty links, empty buttons, missing language. I hope whoever worked on accessibility, they might know what this means. I'm going to cover all this. Okay, these are the pretty common pitfalls where most of the website fall into. Uh, so in order to avoid this, let's say alt text. Let's say you have an image tag, right? And there's something of alt text. Does anyone know significance of what is that alt attribute for the image tag? Right. So if there is a visually impaired user, they are accessing through the website. If they want to know what the image is about, you mention the description about the image in the alt attribute, right? Same as the poor contrast. Let's say if a website has a poor contrast, a visually impaired user cannot read through it, right? Let's say I'm gonna demo these examples as well. And a poor keyboard navigation. Let's say you built a website. So most of the users, disabled users rely on the keyboard navigation. Okay, they make use of tab to navigate through entire website. Okay, and perform actions in order to navigate from each page. Okay, and the captions, as I already mentioned, if there are no captions or transcripts. Let's say you have a video embedded in your web application, and there is no captions. As a person who cannot hear cannot understand what's going on in that video. Okay, a person is playing an audio doesn't know what's going on, right? You need to provide the transcript for the audio too. So yeah, how do we fix this, right? How do we fix this common pitfalls, common accessibility, issues? First thumb rule of approach: make use of semantic HTML. Okay, what is semantic HTML? It's nothing but you have header, body, and footer with uh, so let's say example, we have header, navigation, main, footer, right? There are semantic tags, default ones, right? Like button, anchor tag, button tag. All is a semantic tag. How many of you use div to create a button? Anyone? Yeah, I know. So we already have a button tag. Why do we have to use div to create a button? Right? Doesn't make any sense, right? So when you build a web application with a semantic HTML tags, you don't have to worry about the accessibility. The semantic HTML tags will take care of the accessibility, right? I'm going to show all this demo at the end. Okay, and the next part is make use of area rules, right? So how many of you know area? Accessible rich internet applications, they call it. So it's an attribute that we make use of in HTML, right? So you call it area labeled by, area live, right, and so on. So this is going to be another talk on area rules. It's very huge, right? So in area there are something called roles, states, and properties that we make use of. These are nothing but attributes, HTML attributes that we use. So one of so when do we use area? Okay, first rule of thumb is try to avoid using area rules. Okay, always make use of semantic HTML tags. Okay, so when you are not able to make your website accessible at some point in your website, that's when you'll start using area. Okay, one such example: you built a menu bar in a website. In order to make it accessible through screen reader, this is how we define. You say area label, main navigation, and each of these menu options has a role, right? As you can see, role home. So it means it's a menu item. I'm saying a menu item that will navigate to home. Another menu item, it will navigate to about section, and another menu will go to contact section. Okay, this is how we make use of area label or area roles to make your website accessible. So we use as a disabled user, they use different assistive technologies like screen readers. So like if you take uh, uh, let's say if you take Mac, there's something called VoiceOver, which you can make use of. If you take Windows, there is the NVDA. That's not inbuilt, you will have to install. And there is one other tool called Wave by WebAIM, as I already mentioned earlier. So people make use of these assistive technologies to navigate through all the web applications, right? So as I already mentioned, try to avoid using area roles. You use only when necessary. One great example here, you already declared make use of button, okay, and you have given a role called button. You don't have to do that, right? This is going to confuse screen readers. Since you already created a button with a semantic HTML tag, you don't have to really define it. Let's say if you built a button with a div tag you're gonna have to mention that role as a button, so that an assistive tool can detect it's a button. Okay, same as the correct way of using is the below one, the next one. Okay, try to avoid misusing of area rules. Use only when needed. And another another technique where you make use of area rule is through dynamic implementation. Let's say you have a content, on a web page that gets loaded only when the API call is made, or when the API call is completed. Okay, so you rely on something called loading state, where you keep on waiting when the API call is going on. You show something called something is loading on the website, so that the screen reader detects that something is loading on the website and it reads off. When the website is loaded completely, you're going to show the content on the web page. So in such scenarios, you can make use of area leave polite, so that that attribute itself will define, uh, it start reading when the content is loaded completely. Okay, so that's how we make use of area live, and we conditionally render the details to the screen reader. As you can see, that we depend on the loading state. When the loading is done, we say it's alert. Otherwise, we show the status. That's it. Okay. Another technique was focus management. So, how many of you are aware of focus? Okay. So, yeah, focus can start anywhere. Okay. You build a web application. Let's say you have a form which collects user details like first name, last name, and everything. So the moment you load the page, you want user to enter their first name. So that's where your focus starts. So your focus is on the first input element of the web page called first name. Enter your first name. So there are techniques that one should follow in order to implement that focus. So one is we need to understand in terms of accessibility. The requirements comes from the accessibility advocates. Okay, as a developer, we try to cover as much as 30% of the accessibility issues, like as I mentioned, alt text, missing alt text, and color contrast and everything. Okay, so understand your focus, where the first element in the web page needs to be focused. All these requirements will come from the accessibility team. They will guide you based on the mockups that are given by the designers. Okay, and the next step is implementing the focus tab. Let's say you have a model. You want to make sure that user is not getting lost in those models when they close the pop-ups, right? That's where the focus tabs come in. Okay, this is one such example how to implement this focus tabs. Using use ref. So we make use of React hooks to achieve the focus. So one such example, we created a model, and we call it dialog role dialog, as you can see. And once the dialog is get closed, we want to take user back to the where the user has left. Okay, so that's the focus tab is for. And programmatic focus control, where you can logically achieve the focus on a particular element that you're designed to, that you want to focus on. Okay, and how do we test all this focus related stuff? Just by make use of existing Jest library that comes with the React, right? You can write unit testing test cases for this using Jest, one such example. And to visually show it on the UI, you make use of styles just by using that attribute called focus, right, for a button. Okay. So these are pretty much okay. And so how many of you think this is correct? You? Okay. Anyone? Okay. So many of developers think that, okay, I have to build a UI what product has given, okay, what the designer has given, and their major focus is to build a UI and ship it faster. Okay, they don't think about the accessibility at first, right? They always think, let's deal with accessibility at the end during the QA cycle. Okay, this is where we're going to end up if you do that. Okay, you see accessibility depth everywhere, right? You see so many accessibility issues are reported, and you're close to your release timeline. Okay, so let's not take accessibility at the end. It's always recommended think accessibility at the first before you start developing. Okay, go to the designers, involve accessibility folks, let them review the mockups given with the designers. They can find as many as issues during that phase. Okay, before it goes to development cycle, most of the issues get caught during the designing phase. Okay, you might be getting mockups through Figma or Zeppelin, right? So it has to be reviewed by the accessibility advocates. They give review inputs, feedback, and it goes to another cycle of designing change, and then it comes to the developer. Most of the color contrast issues get caught during the designing phase. When it comes to the developer, as a developer, we need to make sure that we need to have right set of tools in place, right, while developing the component. There, there is a, I hope you all know what is test-driven development, right? TDD. Make use of writing unit test case for accessibility. Okay, so uh, one so never ever mix up with a functionality testing. Never ever mix accessibility testing with a functionality testing. It's good to have accessibility testing as a different track. Okay, so what are the essential tools for testing, right, for accessibility? So there are a few automated testing tools. As I already mentioned, unit testing, make use of just Axe, okay, and Axe Selenium for automation. Axe I hope you already know Axe by DQ Labs. They have open source libraries. So just Axe is for unit testing. Axe Selenium. Either you can use Selenium, Cypress, or Playwright, whichever works for you. For automation testing, A11 by Adios Money. I hope you might be knowing. He's a pretty famous guy from Google. And Axcore React is again from the DQ Labs. Okay, so these are the tools that used by the accessibility QA for testing for any of the accessibility issues. And these are some other popular accessibility testing tools. Axe, as I already mentioned, by DQ Labs, Lighthouse by Google Chrome, Wave by WebIM. And so let me run it a short demo. Okay. So here I have a React app. Oh, hold on. So I have something called Axe Dev Tools here. Okay. I'm gonna run a full scan of the page. It found two issues. It says element must meet minimum color contrast. Okay. Does anyone can read what's here? It says sign up. Can anyone read here? Until unless I highlight it, right? This is a poor contrast. So this is one of the accessibility issue. Okay. And other one is form elements must have labels. Looks like it doesn't have labels. Okay. So I turn on the voiceover. So it's not reading what's there on it. Okay. Looks like it says leaving toolbar React app. It doesn't say It doesn't read out. It just a tick box, nothing else, right? So yeah, I think I'm pretty much out of the time. So sorry. Yep. Thank you so much for everyone. Yeah.